Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Bidding Classics, the online classic car marketplace with more cars added every week. Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours with 10% off using code FD10. And Lancaster Insurance cover the Furious fleet. They are one of the biggest specialist insurers in the UK, covering all areas of vintage to modern classic cars and motorbikes. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and yes, this is a video about the Rover 400, but I am filming the beginning of it here in the Punto, which on a day when it's nudging 30 degrees centigrade was not a wise choice to be taken out because it has no air conditioning and the fan blower thing is stuck on windscreen, so I can't even get any breeze out of the dashboard vents. So anyway, no, the reason I'm taking this car is because it is not blocked in like the Mini is, and that's also got no air conditioning at the moment because that's broken. But I'm off to go and get an MOT on the 420 GSi Tourer, and that hasn't got air conditioning either, but this is the only car on the driveway apart from the Mini which will fit into the garage where the 420 lives. It's also a chance to give the Punto a little run out on what is a very dry day indeed, and you can see how quiet and smooth this thing is. It really is. It's whisper quiet. Good little car this. But it is funny that just yesterday when I did a video about fixing the Alfa 145 headlights, someone commented, what's happening with the Rover 400? I haven't seen that for ages. And well, I was thinking, well, funny you should say that because I've had an MOT booked on it for about a week and a half, and it's happening tomorrow, which is now. So there we go. We're about to go and see the 420 for the first time in a while on camera anyway. I haven't driven the Rover in a couple of weeks, well, for about a month or more. So I've come prepared because I know I'm going to have issues on both these fronts. This lock-up, as you've seen in previous videos, is actually really terrible. It leaks from the roof, it's really tight to get in and out of, but it's a place to call home for at least, well, I say at least one car at a time, not at least one car. Now this one car that's in here right now does have an issue with one of the rear tyres going flat every time I leave it. So I've got my pump-up kit. Yep, that looks pretty low to me, so we'll get that out of the garage. I left the battery disconnected, so the moment I do reconnect it in a moment, the alarm's going to go off, so we're ready to disarm it. Whoop, there we go. Did I bring a spanner? No, of course not. Do I have a multi-tool in the bag? I might have. Let's do the flipper thing, reawaken the... There we go. Fantastic. Right, well, so the handbrake's been left off. Brilliant car. I'm just realising this car was, well, parts of it still are, almost exactly the same colour as the Punto. Who knew? Alright, so luckily I did bring along the D20 pump kit. I think 33 is probably overkill for this tyre. 0 PSI. It's always awkward for these things to start when there's 0 PSI. Well, I'm in the Rover 420 GSi for the first time in quite a while. Do you know what? I thought that I had taken this car off tax, declared it sawn because the MOT was due, and I left it parked in the garage for a while, just not using it as it was, you know, it didn't really need it for a bit. Turns out the MOT had run out and I'd not declared it sawn, so I've paid tax on it for about 2 months and not used it, which is really quite annoying when I'm trying really hard to not waste any money at the moment. And yeah, blowing 25 quid a month on a car which I thought was sawned is quite annoying. But I've had a couple of cars recently where I've been 100% certain that I have declared them sawn, and then I've gone back and checked a little while later and they're still on tax when well, basically when the bank statement comes through and it tells you which cars you've just paid tax for. So I don't know if I've got early onset dementia and I just thought I did it, or if there are issues with the DVLA computer where you hit OK and maybe something doesn't go through correctly. I don't know which is more likely. You draw your own conclusions here. Anyway, as a comparison, climbing out of the 1994 Punto into the I think this is an M plate. This is a 95, could be an early 96 420. It is amazing how much more modern the Fiat feels. This feels like I've gone back like a decade in car design. Doesn't mean I don't like it, it's just interesting to compare, because the Punto was like a brand new, fresh model. It was as new and exciting as it was possible to be. whereas this was, well, approaching its refresh. In fact, the year this was built, the bubble Rover came out, which did feel an awful lot more modern. Different fabrics, different plastic textures, different dashboard, all the rest of it. But also the NVH. The Punto is a category or so below this car in terms of size, but it feels more like a big car than this car does, which is really interesting. And in terms of performance, the Punto is, I don't know, it's about 4 or 5 seconds slower to 60, and its top end is about 30 or 40 miles an hour below this as well. I'm just trying to give this a bit of a rev and a rag to get the catalytic converter warmed up, because otherwise I'm going to go into the emissions test with a cold cat and only having shuffled around a little bit lately. So I need to get the revs up, get the catalytic converter warmed up, and drop it off with the engine nice and warm. Then it's got a better chance of getting through the emissions test. Oh, there is a beautiful Alfa Giulia following me in an amazing shade of electric blue. It does look very nice. It's got an Alfa Romeo Owners Club sticker in the windscreen as well. Well, good luck, little Rover. I'll see you in an hour. So first of all, the media mod on my GoPro has packed up, so there's no sound for the next bit, so I'm having to try and remember what was going on, and I'll quickly overdub it and explain looking back. So anyway, as you can probably tell from the fact we're back home with the car on a jack, it failed, and quite excessively actually. In fact, it found new and interesting ways to fail, which I hadn't come across before, which is always a favourite thing to do with an old Rover. Anyway, the main thing I've got to get done, because the car lives in a garage with no electricity, is sort out the welding, because it failed on rust as per always. First of all, there is a old MOT repair from last year. Underneath it, there is more rust has come through, and the pinch weld has come apart at the back with a big hole in it. And the MOT man was not particularly happy to see this when he started tugging at it, and it looked pretty nasty. So this all needs to be cut out and done more neatly. And I had been planning to replace this area anyway for some time. I hadn't been planning to do quite such a large area though, but let's get it all done and cut out as fast as we can, get a nice clean edge back to good metal. And then we can move on to cardboard aided design, transferring shapes and designs from cardboard to car. And once I'm happy with the shape I need, I can transfer this to a nice sheet of clean fresh steel, much lighter than I've been working on with the Crown Victoria. And I'm using the 1mm plasma cutting discs, which people have recommended, and you guys were right, it does make life so much easier. Now I have a nice shape that just needs to be adjusted to fit the shape of the car. And thank goodness I've got that machine mark clock metal folder, because that makes life so much easier, putting those nice straight bends into the sheet of steel. And after a few minutes of fettling, I've now got a pretty much perfect shape to clamp into the car and zap it in. As I'm using that lighter steel, in fact the entire car itself is much lighter steel than the Crown Vic, I've got the old Draper multi-weld thingamajig, and I've turned the power down a significant amount. And let's get zapping this thing into the side of the car. And as if by magic, we now have a full repair on this corner of the sill. I don't know what the time it is, but it's taken about an hour and a half to whack this in. It looks a bit messy around the corner there because that's, you know, stuff. But once I've let this primer dry, I'll pop a bit of filler over that to just skim it and get the surfaces hidden, and that will actually be quite a tidy repair. Not too bad at all, not too shabby, as they say. Now this was a bit of a shame that this thing failed. I was expecting a bunch of advisories because, you know, it's a car that's been sat around for a couple of months, and it's one that's, well, it needs a whole bunch of restoration work doing it. It's a rolling restoration project basically. I almost took the Alfa 145 down, because after yesterday's easy win with it, I thought, you know, why not just go and get an MOT on it now, while it seems to be working. But because I needed to go and move the Tomcat and the 200 VI and the Freelander and everything, it was going to take a real morning of shifting cars to get it out. I thought, no, I won't bother doing that. And also, the Rover's got tax on it, so I thought, if I go and MOT it now, I can drive it immediately. Whereas the Alfa, I'd have to just drive it straight home again because I haven't got tax on the thing. And that's even a grey area, driving home from an MOT without tax. But with a new MOT, can you do that? I'm not sure you can. I'm not sure if maybe you're meant to tax it before you drive home from the MOT station. That's a bit of a grey area. I need to check out on that one. So anyway, I didn't want to be taxing it on whatever the day is now, the 13th, halfway through a month. I hate taxing cars halfway through a month. So anyway, let's have a look at everything that went wrong on this car. Well, because it's a while since I've had a two-pager on a fail. The actual failure, the things that's stopping it getting MOT right now. The list of major defects, which are the solid fail. So it's at the back of the car, anti-roll bar, linkage pin or bush excessively worn, offside rear. So probably the bush, I think, more than likely. Axle, swivel pins and bushes excessively worn near side rear and offside rear. So the swivel pin, I'm going to guess bushes rather than swivel pins. Vehicle structure, this is three things, which is now what I've just dealt with in one thing. Vehicle structure corroded to the extent that the rigidity of the assembly is significantly reduced, offside rear. Vehicle structure or chassis excessively corroded, seriously affecting its strength within 30 centimetres of a body mounting, offside rear. That a structural rigidity is significantly reduced, offside rear. So that's all that corner, all that one corner. So now I've replaced that corner, those three sections which sound terrifying are all taken care of. Then we've got track rod end, ball joint, dust cover excessively damaged or deteriorated, so it no longer prevents ingress of dirt, offside front. So track rod end, ball joint, dust cover. So track rod end, basically, not difficult. This is kind of a weird one. Emissions unable to be completed because the vehicle stalled multiple times during the test and idle and vehicle not idling correctly. Now, it's never done that before. Even in traffic on the way over there, it idled fine. But I'll quickly show you this when I was putting it back in the garage. This is what they were talking about the MOT. It was really uneven idle. And I don't know if this is a dodgy sensor. It's conked out. I think it might just be really low. It's just low fuel. God. I wonder if it's just low fuel here, because this is really unusual behaviour for it. Fuel pump going, perhaps. I'm not driving on the road. I'm in a car park right now, so don't comment. I'm gonna get us into this garage before anything else happens. That's not happy, is it? I wonder if that's a sensor, or if it's a fuel pump, maybe? Fuel filter, could be a fuel filter. The bad petrol's been sat a while. First thing I'll do is I'll go and bung a gallon or two of V-power in this thing, because that often solves problems. Now idle, it's hunting and it actually stalled. So possibly, like I said in that little clip, possibly it's just old fuel because it's been sat around for a few weeks and new fuel just does not last. I'll put some V-power in it and then run it, and that may well rule that one out. But it might be a fuel pump, might be a fuel filter, could be a sensor. I'll take the P-scan down there and make sure none of the sensors are down. Anyway, those are the actual fails that are keeping the car from being done. So basically it's all suspension bushes basically. So nothing horrendous. I'm just going to need to get that up in the air to have a proper look at it and identify which parts I need to go and purchase. Then we've got repair as soon as possible minor defect, which is the windscreen, which it got the same advisory last year. It's the bottom left hand corner, it's the furthest corner. You can't see it from the driver's seat, but it is cracked. But it is cracked in a little semicircle, so it's gone back into itself. It seems a shame to waste an original Rover screen for a crack that isn't causing a problem. Anyway, then we've got the advisories. Fuel pipe corroded rear, all four brake discs worn but not excessively, but that's not a problem because I want to upgrade it to EBC stuff and make it better, so I'm not too worried about that because they all need to be done anyway. Coil spring corroded near side rear, coil spring corroded off side rear, again not a problem because I want to replace the suspension and lower the thing, so all that suspension is going to be going in the bin at some point before too long because it does feel kind of very wobbly. Tyre worn close to legal limit, near side front and off side front, again not a problem because I want to change the wheels, which can get new tyres, so all of that stuff I'm not bothered replacing because it's going in the bin. Oil leak but not excessive. It's a T-series engine, it's going to be leaking and quite often excessively. Anti-roll bar linkage pin or bush worn but not resulting in excessive movement near side rear, so that's the other side of the one that did fail. Anti-roll bar corroded but not seriously weakened rear, I think it's just the paint flaking off it. Suspension arm corroded but not seriously weakened, near side and offside rear, so I need to be painting those up and making them look pretty. Suspension arm pin or bush worn but not resulting in excessive movement, near side rear and offside rear. Okay, more bushes. Vehicle structure is corroded but structural rigidity not significantly reduced, near side rear, and also corroded within 30 centimeters of a mounting but not seriously affecting, I think it's just surface rust. And then we've got coil spring corroded offside and near side front, again going in the bin. Now we've got brake pipe corroded, covered in grease or other material, near side and offside front, so I'll give them a clean up. It's quite muddy actually, so service brake binding but not excessively on both sides. I hadn't noticed that actually, but I haven't driven it in a while though. And finally, anti-roll bar linkage pin bush worn but not resulting in excessive movement, near side front and offside front. All the bushes are knackered, all the suspension is knackered, all the tyres are knackered. It's basically everything that wears out has worn out, and it's time to get replacing. All the upgrades and things I've been planning on doing to that car suddenly have come to a head and need doing, well, basically now. Oh well, it just means I've got 10 days to do some of them, so I better crack on and get them done, as well as the Crown Victoria. Lucky I've got a few days at home to get it sorted out. And after seeing all that list, and actually after driving the 400 again, I'm actually thinking I do kind of prefer the 75. Maybe I should sell the 420 and keep this the 75 instead. The 400's a lot rarer, but this is actually quite a bit nicer. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please, as always, hit like and subscribe. Head over to furiousdriving.co.uk to check out the, oh, not ring anything, hats, mugs, t-shirts, magnets, stickers, and all the other key rings, so good. And if you're not a and if you want to help support this channel, please have a look at becoming a channel member or channel Patreon, because that really does help to buy all those parts that are going to keep that car back on the road along with all the other cars and keep the entertainment flying. Thank you for watching, and join me again next time. Well, Crown Vic or Rover. I think Rover's starting to become a priority.